Hi there crafters, it's Louise with you today. Welcome along to another 3 old and 3 new stash busting video. I'm using some Paper Rose Rainbow 12 Twirl papers, a Simple Stories embellishment pack and some heart stickers. I'm also using paste and my Colour Blast Shimmer Dusts. Now I have chosen this photo and I knew straight away that I wanted to use this rainbow paper and get quite a mixed media background going on. So it's been a little while since I have created anything sort of colourful from scratch. I haven't pulled out my watercolours, I haven't been using sprays. It's been lately all about patterned papers and layering and embellishing for me. So I have had the occasional layout where I've added like some glitter paste or the last share with the distress crayons. So I decided that I was actually going to have a go at making my own background today. And the first thing I'm going to do is mount my photo on this rainbow coloured paper, and then having a look at the embellishments, I need to decide what it is that I actually want to put with the photo. I'm also going to just distress the outside of that photo, particularly when I'm working with mixed media backgrounds. Sometimes having that bit of texture will help your photo to blend in with your layout a little bit more. So just taking my distress tool. Now, if you don't have a distress tool, they're quite an inexpensive craft tool to pick up. I use the Tim Holtz branded version, but there are a couple on the market, and you can do the same thing with a pair of scissors. There's lots of different crafters that I've seen distressing with just a straight up pair of scissors. So don't feel like you necessarily need a tool to do a job. There are normally ways you can find to actually do the exact same thing with the tools that you have. So because I'm going to create mixed media in this background, I decide to work on the photo portion of this layout first. So you can see I've popped that little camera at the bottom, I've got the little adore word, and I'm just going to pop this up on some cardboard. I generally, if I'm putting mixed media in the background, I like to just pop that on some cardboard as it helps separate the background and gives a little bit of dimension to that photo area. Now, I like to have a bit of an idea of where the cluster portion, the photo, is actually going to go on the page. So I've just put a cross through, and what I'm going to do is apply my paste through a stencil, and I'm going to do that sort of in almost a diamond shape. So I'm going to work towards a point at the bottom, and then at the top I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have a point at the top and gradually spread that paste out into sort of a triangle so that there's a point at the center of the top and a point at the center of the bottom with the photo in the middle. Now you can use your heat gun to dry your paste if you want to. I actually like to let mine dry naturally. A couple of reasons. One, it doesn't necessarily warp the paper and you get a fairly sort of natural drying state. But if you're in a hurry and you like to sort of craft on the go, get things done and put it aside, you can definitely use a heat gun if you prefer. Now, I have this palette that I've had for many, many years, and the Colour Blast Shimmer Dusts activate with water, but once you've used them in this palette, you can see that there's a little bit of the pigment still sitting in the bottom of the palette, and I simply activate it with some water and then use my paintbrush to spread that colour around. So it's not necessary to always pull out the pigment and just use little bits here and there. If like me, I mean, these palettes are pretty cheap. You can pick them up at your discount store, and just keep your Colour Blast Shimmer Dusts sitting in there and let them dry out, and then when you want to reuse them, you just reactivate them with some water. Now, I'm going to try and work my way through the colours. So I'm pretty sure we've got Lush, which is the green. We have got Peacock, which is that sort of teal. We have got Sunshine, could be Sunflower, sun something, which is the yellow. And then I want a contrasting colour because you can see that these blend quite well and I've allowed them to blend, but I want something that's going to help my photos, which is quite, with the little florals, heavy on that purple, and I don't want it to be too purple. I only just need a tiny pop of this. I can't even remember what this one's called. I want to say lilac, but I don't think so. I think it's violet. And I started doing it when my other colour shimmers were still wet, but all us crafters should know by now that if you mix purple with any other colour, you'll end up with brown. So I popped my background aside and I left it to dry the colours that I'd already applied, and then I come back in with the purple, and same with just filling in some other colours as well. Now at this point I'm sort of going, whoa, this is like super bright. These colours are almost overwhelming my central photo cluster a little bit. What am I going to do to dull them down? And I did actually have to stop and think about this for a little while. I went to Pinterest, I had a look at some backgrounds on Facebook, some other things that some scrappers had been doing in backgrounds, and I decided that I was going to add stitching. And I am a huge fan of the stitch, which now is completely escaping my memory. I'll keep talking and it'll come back to me. But this particular stitch is quite simple. You can find it on YouTube. If you've watched any of my videos, it's the one I always used before. And I'm going to do most of that off camera so you don't have to sit and watch me stitch, but I'm also going to do it in white. Now, what the white is going to do is it's going to contrast against that dark sort of background colour that I've got there, but also the white against the white creates this lovely interesting texture. And it's really hard to see on the actual photograph of the layout, but now that I'm finished and I show you this page in a real video version, you can sort of see how that stitching just enhances that layout that little bit. Now, I'm still a little bit overwhelmed by the colour of the mixed media portion, so the shimmer dusts were just a little bit intense for my liking. So I'm just going to grab my very technical little tool here, which is actually an old water bottle lid, and add some messy little circles in different sizes. This smaller one, I had far too much water there, so it ended up being a little bit more of a blob than it was a circle. But you know what, this is creating, and by adding a little bit more water and some white, I managed to sort of dull this down a little bit. I definitely don't think it overwhelms the page. It was just brighter than I was expecting it to be, and the stitching really helps. So I'm going to let that dry, have a bit of a cleanup of my mess, come back, and you can see that that white has just muted it down a little bit. I have stuck those florals in, and I'm just going to attach this to the background. And then in the final stages, I really just want to add a couple of those smaller embellishments from the embellishment pack just around the outside. Also forgetting that I had the puffy hearts, which needed to go on because they were one of my stash busting elements. So pulled those puffy hearts out, and again using those colours that I had used in that background. I actually really love this layout. It was sort of very different to what I thought I was going to create when I started this process, but I think yeah, it's worked really well, and it's one of my favourites from just recently. Alright, that is my 3 old 3 new share for today. I hope that you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching and visiting my channel. Always appreciate your comments. Thanks so much, and happy scrapping.